I hope you guys have been enjoying Spring Fling, and I'm excited to show you my project that I've been doing. I have created a spring banner. This is one version of it, and I'm gonna show you another as well. What we're gonna need is your couching foot, and then I've designed some patterns that will go really well with this, and then you'll need some yarn as well. I'm using white. I thought it popped out a lot more. Okay, first thing you've got to do whenever you come over to quilt is we're going to pull up our bobbin, and then we are going to base stitch around this entire square. So don't worry, it doesn't have to be pretty. This is just to hold down this fabric. What I have done is I've cut this way bigger than what the actual banner is going to be, but it's just to make sure that we have enough space. So I'm gonna pull up my bobbin and come back, clip that thread. Now we're ready to open up QCT. So now that we're in, we're gonna go into select and sew. And for this, the patterns that have already been done, we're gonna have you already import them so they'll already be on your tablet. In this, I have them in patterns and custom, and I have all of these different little blocks to do. And I'm gonna show you how to do the flower block. So we're gonna open it, and before I get started on placement, I'm gonna come over to my toolbox, and then I'm gonna go down to my marking tools, and I'm gonna mark around my block just to make sure that I am in the area of the pink square. This helps me because I know exactly where it's gonna be placed, because I don't wanna place 4 corners specifically for this project. So I want it to be proportional. So now that we can see this is where my area is that I have to work, I'm gonna go back to my placements. And then over here on the size, we're gonna go and make sure it's locked. And for the width, I'm gonna put 5.5. So now it's changed it proportionally. So for the height, you can tell it's a little less than 7 inches, but this is how I want it. If you want them bigger, measure them bigger, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna find the center of my square, and I'm gonna place. And once it's placed, you can see how it's within the marking tool. If I came over here to place it thinking this was good, and I placed it, it'd be outside, and that's when we sort of get into that trouble. I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna place. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna quilt the outside edge first. So I'm gonna guess where it's going. So I'm gonna guess right about here. I'm gonna pull up my bobbin, and then I'm gonna press sew, and it'll get started for me. And then it's gonna do a couple stitches to just stick it in place. And then I'm gonna pull on the thread. So we're gonna go move to next, and it's gonna move to the start of our flower. And before you press sew, this is when we're gonna grab our yarn and we're gonna put it in. So how you do this is I'm just gonna put it just a little bit under, so not much of a tail. And then once I feel like it's set, I'm gonna press sew. And I'm gonna hold the tail while it does its couple of setting stitches. And then once it's done that, then I will start to sew. And it's just basically making sure that the yarn is stuck in it. And then I'm just move to next, sew, and we're just gonna keep going. And make sure you have enough yarn, because if not, if it pulls, it's actually not gonna tack down the yarn with your stitches. Okay. So now that it's done, we look at it, we don't need to repair any patterns, so we're gonna press finished, and then it takes a minute to go back where you can manually press. Once it's done that, what I like to do is I'm filling in, because I think it gives it a little bit more of a floof. Now that it's all filled in, I'm gonna cut my bobbin, and then we can pull this away, and you can see how it's your little banner. So what we're gonna do from now is we're gonna take this off and we're gonna cut around it You can do it with either a rotary cutter or you can just do it with shears. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna cover it with the binding, and we'll go from there. Okay, now that we're back, I have taken the little rubble off of the Cutie Breeze and I have switched it into sewing mode. I've changed the tension. I've already done all of that. And then I have taken what we've quilted and I have cut it out. It doesn't need much of an edge, just something simple. I'm only gonna show you one. With the patterns and everything, what you're gonna do is you're gonna repeat the same process that you did on the frame, but you're gonna do it with all of the different letters. So I've got an S, I've got my P, and then we're just gonna go all the way through R, I, N, G. And then I have another flower and I'm gonna show you how to do this top stitch to make it so the twine can go through. So we've got this one. I have already cut out a 2-inch strip and then I've ironed in the sides to give us a little bit of a fold. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and I'm gonna give it a little bit of a lip and not go right along the edge, just so that I can have some trimming room. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up this first fold and we're gonna line it up with the edge of our project. And we are gonna pin, and once we get to our first edge with our first corner, we're gonna pin about 1/4 of an inch. If we took it at a diagonal, 1/4 of an inch up, so we know where that spot is. We're gonna sew to this pin line, and then we're gonna take it and we're gonna sew a diagonal. So I'll grab another pin to show, and we'll sew from the pin line to the corner. So I'll take it to our machine, make sure everything's set. I'm just lining it up with the foot, and we'll start. Okay, now that I'm close to the pin line, I'm gonna take the pin out and I'm gonna do 2 more stitches to get right there. And I'm gonna put my needle down, I'm gonna pull my foot up, and I'm gonna turn it at the diagonal and I'm just gonna sew off. So it's going all the way down and then it's got this angle. And then before we start the next part, we're gonna grab our shears and we're gonna cut up to our stitch line right in the middle of this peak. So don't cut too much. It just needs to be a little bit, just so you can have a little bit more give when you're stretching it. Then we're gonna fold this over and make it as straight as possible. And we're gonna pin. Pinning is your best friend on this project. It keeps everything straight and smooth. And then we're gonna pin right at the top of where our stitch line is. And we're gonna give it just a little bit. We're just gonna pin right there. So we're gonna sew all the way to this pin line again. And once we get to this top, we're gonna stop. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more stitches. Put my needle down. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this to come over, and it's gonna make like a straight line between this. I'll show on this one to give a little bit better image. So if I were to pull, it'd make a straight line. And then we're gonna sew all the way to the bottom. And then once we get about 1/4 of an inch, we're gonna do the same thing where I'm gonna do 2 more stitches and I'm gonna sew to the corner. So now we've got this. So we've got it up to the top and then we've got it all the way to our corner. And then the last bit is we're just gonna pull it over, try to flatten it out as much as possible. We're gonna line up as we go. We're done. I'm gonna take the edge and I'm just gonna trim it so I don't have this long tail. So now we've got our top binding on, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip the corners. I am going to trim just a little bit on the corners so it's not as bulky. Don't cut the thread. I'm gonna do the same on this side. We're on to the next part. So we're gonna take the corners, we're gonna flip them so it makes it a little bit of a nicer clean edge rather than just the stitch line. So we're gonna keep that and we are gonna start flipping it so it just comes on the back side. And we're gonna pin. And when we pin, I wanna make sure that I have a lot of room with my top pin so I can pull it out on the other side, so that when I stitch on this side, I have the pin to remove. And we're gonna come all the way down and we're gonna try and make it as straight as possible. Then we're gonna repeat on the other side, so leave this part untouched for now. And for this, it doesn't change for any of the lettering. It is the same exact process. The only difference is the type of pattern that you'll quilt on it. So now that it's all the way flat, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take up one side, we're gonna fold it over, and I'm gonna pin the corner so it's nice and neat. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna pull it as flat as we can. And so it's gonna make a flat edge here. It's gonna be a little bunched up here, but that doesn't matter. We're gonna pin right here. So not on the tip, just a little bit from the peak. And then we're gonna take this side and do the same thing. Okay, now that we have it, we'll have this bunch at the top. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna just do a little bit of a fold. So we're gonna put it flat here and then fold this part over. So it gives it just a little bit of this nice straight edge. And on the front side, I'll show you what it looks like. It'll be a little bunched, but then when you fold it over, it'll lay flat just like that. So I'm gonna pin that so it stays in place. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna make sure that that stays, and we're gonna sew right on this lip. So I am using the presser foot to help guide me and line it up just on the edge so that it looks neat and it's nice all the way around. So I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna do a little bit of a back stitch, hold it in place. And then just pull out pins as needed. Then once you get to the corner, put your needle down and press your foot up. And you're gonna flip, gonna come here, tuck that under. Pull out that one, keep it down. Okay, and now with this, you can either take just a hand needle and sew it down, or you can press it down and it'll create that flat line. And then when you turn this on the back, it's a little bunched, but if I pinned it more, it wouldn't be. And then I'm going to clip off these tops so that it's a nice flat edge. And now we're gonna grab our next piece. You can iron it. I didn't because I think it looks like a nicer fold. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna measure it. This is a 3-inch wide section, and I like it about there, so I'm gonna trim on this side. This does not have to be straight. We're gonna fold over all the edges so it's totally good. And then on this front side, what we're gonna do is we're gonna line it up, and then I'm gonna fold this part over. You can sew this part down, but we're just gonna go over it again. So I'm gonna keep like that, and I'm gonna pin it in the middle. So that's all flat. I'm gonna turn it back over, and I'm gonna fold the edges over so it looks a little bit like this, looks like a little hat. And I am going to trim again to line up with this fold. I'm gonna come over on this side, do the exact same thing. All right, so now we're gonna take it and fold it over. And once we do that, I'm gonna take this top side and I'm gonna line it up with the fold, just like this. So we have this nice little loop, and it has space so that we can put our twine or our jute in. And from here, I'm gonna pin it right in place. Then I'm gonna try and make the fold nice and easy on this side. We're gonna fold it all the way over. So now that it's set, we can take out this middle pin because it'll stay in the same spot. And take it to the sewing machine, and we're gonna sew right along this edge. So do just a small stitch, just like we did around the whole border. Okay, now that we're done, this is what the final project's gonna look like. And you are gonna repeat this process on all of them. At the end, it's just totally the same as if you were gonna do any other type of threading with a twine. So what I did is I tied a knot, and then I took my safety pin and I'm gonna put it through the knot, and you're gonna push it through all the way through your projects. And there you have it. So we're gonna do that on all of these, and then I'll show you the final project. So here is the final project. I still have one flower to do for the end, but I am in love with how it turned out. I hope you guys are enjoying this spring fling, and I hope you're enjoying the whole festival and that you have a great start to your spring. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please don't be afraid to reach out to us. Thanks.